recording. Just saying, Ashton, how you doing, my man? You know what? I was commenting on you seem fired up in your post. You seem motivated, sir.
Oh, I certainly am. I certainly am.
So what happened here? Let's you know, in terms of you left 2021 hitting like an all-time high 955 and on top of the worlds, right? People were discussing, debating, is it you or Taylor Atwood who was number one in 2021? Like it was like, I mean, you had a phenomenal year. And in 2022, you replicated that 955 in March. And
Mhm.
then but you finished the year saying, I could do more. I have more than this, and you seem super duper fired up. We could go back to some of these competitions for 2022, but before we do, what has got you fired up right now?
I think I think every now and then, when you're competing at a top level for a long time, you just sort of need to get punched in the mouth every once in a while. I think it's a good thing. I think it's healthy. I think it helps you sort of keep your edge. You don't become complacent. You don't just start doing meets to do them, but rather you're doing them to. There's sort of a new sense of purpose now, right? So when you lose a meet, you're sort of in a way, in my opinion, in powerlifting, because it's very objective and numbers based. If you're trying to be the best and somebody beats you, it's kind of an emasculating experience. And I'm just the kind of guy who hates being emasculated. So,
Yeah.
like, I got to come back and I got to beat this person and I got to be better than they were or better than they have ever been. And that's just sort of where I'm at right now.
So you're speaking to the Virginia Pro then.
Yes.
So in your mind's eye, was it more that like would it bother you if it was like a dot situation, or is it that like Bobb Matthews in particular is in your weight class? So then it's like, look, is it one thing to be outdone on like a formula and you're like, okay, whatever, that is what it is. Sometimes formulas change, or is it in your weight class? Keenan, Bobb now are starting to hit big numbers. You're like, no, 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 no. Like, or is it all of it? Is it all the above?
I'd really say honestly, it's really more of the latter. Bob hit 2099, like right at 2100 that meet. And like you said, that's a total I've hit in two meets. The first meet I did it was at the Virginia Pro. The second meet I did it was at the Arnold, and I used conventional at that meet instead of sumo. It only took two deadlift attempts at that meet. So I was able to like replicate it and still have more in the tank. And I was set for having a really good year, but things just sort of, didn't pan out that way for a lot of reasons. Um, but yeah, I mean, when someone in your weight class out totals you and wins and they're the best lifter of the year, and you're just like, or I'm just like, man, I literally did better than this the last year as a junior lifter, even when I did 950.5. And I weighed 217, versus, 220 to 230. So to me, it just shows regression. I mean, time never really sort of stops. So if you aren't progressing, then you're regressing. There's only two options. And I just saw, the latter half of 2022 as regression. And I'm just kind of sick of it.
Is there a particular reason for that? Was there like injuries on the personal end, just like other things going on that are distracting? I mean, it could be a million things in life, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There was a lot going on in my professional life for sure. I had to successfully defend my dissertation. I had to do like OSCE clinical examinations. I had to do, of course, continue working with patients, and doing assessments and a whole lot of other different things. I also TA'd for some time intensive classes, which meant time intensive TA responsibilities, some other military obligations and training. Um, and then I also had to apply for internship programs for this next upcoming year. There's a whole lot going on in
Mm.
and that just kind of scratches the surface of it. So for months on end, I was only sleeping between 2 and 4 hours every single night for several months, and just worked every single day, sun up to sundown. I didn't really sleep, so that doesn't always necessarily lead to the best training, right? And but I will say though, despite all of that, I think there are two big things that sort of led to the regression in my performance. I think one was just not really having the sort of lifting community that I would like ideally. That is like, a reliable training group or group of partners, like 2 to 5 people. When I'm back in Texas, my training always starts to get way better. I'm around, people that I trust, and we train better. But in this area, I just really haven't. There just really hasn't been much of an opportunity for that. And a lot of people have busier lives and they're all over the place. And so it's all a bit more fickle. That's one really huge factor in my opinion. The second thing is we tried some things out in training, and unfortunately, the things that we kind of experimented with just didn't really pan out. It wasn't really anyone's fault. It was just things that we tried, an approach that we tried, and it didn't really work, and it kind of just snowballed into poorer and poorer training performances, which led to a poor meet performance. So there's really a whole lot encapsulated there, but I would say all of those things contribute.
It is, what I had Marcellus on previously, and like this is what you do as like an athlete and coach and the whole nine is like you try new things. You have to try new things. Now, here's the thing, because like progress, that's the only way you're going to make progress. And in this division in particular, you got to make progress because there's like, obviously Bobb is gaining tons of ground. Keenan just posted up a 957.5, like he's gaining tons of ground as well. So you got to keep moving. So you do sometimes got to try new things, but on the flip side, it's like, I mean, oof, what if they don't work out? So it's tough. It's very, very difficult. And sometimes you try new things and they work and you throw on massive total, like kilos in the total. Sometimes you don't. And you either, stay put or regress a little bit. So it's 2020 hindsight, and everybody's going to do the Monday morning quarterback, look back on you and be like, oh, you shouldn't have done it. It's like, how would we have known if we didn't try it out? Right. So it's difficult, but, it is what it is. Now, in terms of the training with your partners, I remember seeing some videos. Who was it? Were you with like Jesus, Michael Davis, Pablo? I've seen you with them a few times previously. Who was it that was like your main people when you were really hitting your stride, hitting the 955 a couple times in a row, the second time with room in the tank at the Arnold?
Yeah, I had a couple of friends in this area that I actually trained with relatively frequently. At least every Saturday morning for sure. We'd be up in the morning and we'd go train together. And then 1 or 2 the other days of the week, whenever they had time to show up. And, unfortunately, one doesn't really train anymore, and the other one moved from the area. So it was like, all right, so they're gone. So, the prep the prep just had a different feel to it, man. It's, it really is. It's just not the same. Like, I mean, I can still train effectively by myself and do well by myself and still put up great performances. But at the same point in time, it's not really the same. And I think at this level, doing the things that I'm doing, some of the other folks doing the things that they're doing, I think one of the best things that you could have is, even if it's just a couple of people, a strong lifting community or group. And it's not that they even have to lift more weight than you per se or be stronger than you, but when you train with them, and you just sort of sharpen each other and, don't accept mediocrity from each other. I think that makes just such a big difference in training for sure.
It's, I felt it. I know most people feel it too. Like I can get into, especially during COVID. So you train, you got your own equipment, you might be training at home or whatnot. When I started going back to the gym and I seen a couple of the fellas, Caffwey's there, like you see some of your boys are there and you're like, you start getting fired up. You start firing each other up a little bit. Like when it's a top set and, your boy's like, you want me to record this? Let's go. You want a spot? And a couple people start spotting. Let's go. Let's go. They start yelling at you a little bit because they're behind you, literally and figuratively have your back. And all of a sudden, like, fuck, that's it. You don't get that when you just throw on the safeties by yourself. I'm going to put safeties up. That's not the same.
No, of course not. It's all, there's just this attitude and this just sense of like, I can't fail now. It just has a whole different feel to it. It has a whole different feel to it. And I mean, I can motivate myself, I can fire myself up, and I can train alone, but I just do notice the difference when there is that group there versus doing it independently. I think there definitely is a difference there. And I've even seen people who lift alone or lift alone for years, and they're like, oh, I don't really need anyone, I don't really care. But as soon as they step foot in a gym, with other people that push them, or they see others in a small group pushing each other, they're all just elevating at the same time, they start to change their perspectives on it. And I've seen that happen. So it's just interesting
Dog,
to
it's a vibe. I get it where some people are introverts and like I'm as extrovert get. And I fell into it's more of like almost a complacency thing where like if the weights are right there, you at home, just pop on a podcast. It's so casual. And you don't have to drive, get dressed, do whatever. The shit's just right there. Now here's the problem. It's too casual. It's too casual. Like you said, where like if your boys are there and they're like, Ashton, again, you're doing that weight. Isn't what we were doing last week? Wasn't last week? What were we saying last week? Weren't we going to bump it up a little bit? We're going to push it a little bit. Like they'll hold you accountable. They'll be like, let's go.
right.
Or you know what I mean? Like, let's go. Like you start getting fired up, man. It's weird. Even introverts will feel that.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. I think there's something, really important that you said that was nested in there regarding accountability. That's really big too. I think when it comes to people, especially with like training, I think I'm definitely more on the objective side of things. I don't really get super emotional when it comes to, usually I don't, when it comes to like my training and making decisions in my training. But, I think everyone has their moments. I have my moments for sure. But generally speaking, I'm pretty objective, and when I do take risks, they're very calculated risks. But when you have other people there and they know you're training and they've seen your lifting, and they can hold you accountable and they know you're not pushing yourself the way you need to be, or conversely, if you're pushing yourself way too hard, and they also see that, I think that it's good to have people there that can detect that as well. It never hurts to have that safety net.
It's almost worth, even if it's like, because when I went to France for the silent worker meet, I was talking to some of those lifters out there in their community. I was talking to them, and sometimes we see videos of like what's going on in France. You'll see like Leah, Penna, Tiff, Coco, Clement, and all of them, Clement, all of them together
in that room. Yeah,
in that one room. I know it's like a famous room now, right? And I remember asking them like when I was there, because it was in Paris or like just outside of Paris. And I was like, so how you guys all live around here? And they're like, no. I'm like 5 hours. And I'm like, 5 hours. I see you guys training all the time. And they're like, yeah, no, I'll drive 5 hours to get here on a Saturday to fucking get it in. And I'm like, what about you guys? Start going around the room. I see you in all these videos. And they're all like, I'll drive 3 hours for this. And I'm like, 3 hours. And they're like, but listen. 3 hours. And they're like 4 or 5 world champions, a couple of them junior world champions, whatever, like world class. And they'll like be there for like 3 to 4 hour training sessions. I don't got to tell you, you got some monster training sessions. You go out for dinner together. You have like, it's that exactly what you're describing. You have that where you're like, let's eat before we train, or let's eat afterwards. And then we'll talk about, fuck, you see that single? Dude, that moved good. It's supposed to be an 8. I thought that was a 7. You moved this so well. Yeah, felt like a 7. You just talk like that. You get like in that vibe, and like when your boy hits and he's a world-class lifter or whatever, even doesn't have to be world-class to your point earlier, but he hits something, he's having a good day and he's fired up. And then you are fired up. And
you're feeding off that energy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if you get like a cluster of people like that. So when I talk to them, it made sense. I was like, and they were like, you don't have to do it every time, but like once a week, let's all get together. We all got that day off, and let's travel. Let's meet up. Let's link up.
Yeah.
And to your point, even if it's like once a week, once every 2 weeks, something, when some big days are coming, if you just find your team, find your crew, and be like, let's make it worth it.
Yep, get in there and make it happen. That's just, that's so huge. And I admire that, and I've done that for, other people I've trained with in the past, few hours, drive wherever, travel wherever, because I understand the value that comes from that. Like you're saying, that energy that you're all feeding off of. And there's also just a sense of sort of camaraderie that you build with the people that you're training with,
Yeah.
And, it makes just a world of difference. I remember when I was prepping for Raw Nationals in 17, my first open title, and I'm training with, he's to this day he's one of my 2 closest friends, Christian Chasneficent on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yep, him, King of Hype, right? This is what they called him.
Yeah.
And when we started training together, and we just sort of were feeding off of each other every session, and almost like almost in competition with each other some days, and we're just in there just getting after it every single day. And that meet came around, and I just had an amazing meet, hit like all-time PRs, and won my first open title. And I think a lot of people were anticipating I was going to win, and it was a whole thing. It was like almost like a story, a story out of a movie or something, but just on a smaller scale. But yeah, it was a good time.
Was that the year when you beat LS?
Yes.
Who was the reigning world champion?
Yeah, I beat LS, and then I had beaten Ricks that year too.
Yeah. Yeah. And LS was the reigning world champion at the time. And like, that was huge. And you were like 19
Yeah,
or 20.
I was 20.
Okay. You were super duper young. It was huge. That was like the big coming out party. Like, here I am. I just, like, whenever you beat the reigning world champion at 20, like it's crazy. And yeah, it's I remember when I first started powerlifting, and I felt that it was a team, and I was showing up, and like you feel the vibe, and like when somebody's having an awesome day and you're like fucking, and you're taking turns squatting, and now it's your turn, they're all spotting you, and you're riding that wave, and like it becomes, even if you don't have to be hitting the same weight to be competitive, it's more like I just crushed what I came here to crush. Now it's your turn. It's not about the weight. We could be a totally different weight classes, but you can still be like, let's go. Let's fucking
energy?
go.
Yeah.
I remember at one point I had a day off. It wasn't my training day, and I still I was so into the positive, the vibe, and like into it, and we're all prepping for a meet. I still would show up at the gym, just fucking let me just soak it up. And like the energy still was like, it was like, I knew at the time, this won't last. Like nothing in life lasts, right? But like the team, everybody right now, it's happening. The team will break up, and like eventually the team did break up. God knows where some of these guys are now in life, but like I knew this was special. And I swear to God, even at that time in my 20s, I was like, I'm fucking showing up. I just want to swing in there, soak it up. This is like a moment I'm going to look back and be like, hell yeah. And so I know what you mean. When you're in that moment, you were so in, but when you were just showing up at like a gym and you don't have crew, you don't have your fam, your squad, your equipe, but for the French guys, you don't have that, and you're kind of just doing your own thing. To your point, it's all right. It's all right. You could get your work done. You'll get your work done because discipline is not your problem, but there's a difference, and it's difficult to explain to someone who hasn't felt that. It's like, nah, that's not the same. You can't tell me it's the same, right?
Yeah, I fully concur. It is definitely an entirely different experience, and I legitimately believe, and I'm a very skeptical person, I'm a very scientific person, but I do genuinely believe that when those moments, as fleeting as they are, when they're there, where you have a few weeks or months or even a couple of years, and you have that crew and you have that sort of that energy, each session, you get stronger. Like there's not really an option. Like I mean, unless something catastrophic happens, God forbid, like you get better. It just forces you to be better. You have to be better.
I was Lee Norton came to Toronto for a seminar, and we were like hanging out on the weekend, and we were out for dinner and drinks, like football was on, and we were just talking like sports talk or whatever. I'm not a big football guy, but like I do enjoy sports, obviously, right?
Did you see the Jaguars win?
I wasn't watching. Arian does. Arian's all in. Arian, did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, we watched the Jags' big comeback, and then today we're watching the Dolphins game, hoping the Dolphins would come back, and they were just short.
Is what it is. But so we were talking about it, and Lane was saying how in sports, when you're watching the field, it doesn't matter, football, hockey, basketball, whatever, you can feel and see momentum. You can see when a certain side has that momentum. And to your point about like science, I believe in the science too, right? Like I believe like the numbers don't lie, training volumes, intensities, and all that. It's all real. However, there's something to be said for like momentum. And you could see it when you watch a fucking any game. Anyone who watches live sports, there are times when I'm watching the Olympics and it's like Team Canada when it comes to the Olympics. Whoa, And you could feel, oh shit, either we have that momentum right now and you're confident, like we're going to score this. We're all over them. We're all over them. And then, and there's no reason for it. There's just momentum, or if it's on the other side, I mean, look at Lane is Mr. Science. Lane Norton is Mr. Science. And Lane Norton's like 100%. There's things like momentum and belief that are out there when it comes to humans, and it's a fucking beautiful thing. And things change. And when you get that momentum and belief going and your team is around you and you feel that, you know, you just crush. Make hay while the sun shines. It don't last forever, right?
Yeah, that momentum is something you truly do feel. You know, I mean, the momentum that I have been starting to generate as of lately, as of very, very recently, you know, this is the first time I've felt this way since, honestly, you know, like over a year, couple years even, like that I've actually felt this level of just momentum and intensity that I bring to every session. I almost feel kind of like back in 2017 when I used to train with Christian and we were just at it every single goddamn day. And I'm starting to feel that way again, and that sort of fire and intensity. And I revel in it. I love it because I know that it's one of those things that's not always there, doesn't last forever. Nothing lasts forever, as we said earlier. But when it's there, man, you gotta really enjoy it. You gotta ride that wave.
Dude, you could tell that it's there for you right now, too. In your comments, people are like, oh, shit, it feels like it's there. And I was saying, too, like, feels like something's going on Ashton's end. And you know what? It almost is like to the point of when you were saying it's not always there. It comes, it goes, but it's better that way. You think you want it all the time. But if sweet is always, if you've never tasted bitter, you don't know what sweet tastes like.
Exactly.
It's just everything. You appreciate when it's gone and you're like, fuck, is it ever going to come back? And you're like, is it ever going to come back? And you go through ruts, kilos go down, life gets crazy. And you're like, that second guess the whole night. And then when it comes back, you're like, I feel it coming back again.
Yeah. You really, you really gain an appreciation for it when it's absent for very long. When things, you know, don't trend your way or trend downwards, it's you know, the age old, you know, story of like the champion or the hero, right, or whatever. You know, you have to go through adversity, you have to struggle, you have to fail, but when you succeed, when you win, you know, if you win, that win, it means so much more to you because you've truly earned it, and you have, you know, you've suffered, you've toiled, but you've also you didn't give up, you know, and there's just something so rewarding about that for sure.
And the fleetingness of it is what makes it beautiful when you're in it. It makes you appreciate it. When you know this is fleeting, I need to be present right now and just appreciate, like, it makes you, it's a different level, man.
I know what I have going on right now. I'm like, this isn't going to be all of 2023. This isn't going to be the rest of my, you know, my time in powerlifting, but it's happening right now.
Yeah.
And I need to take advantage of it. And that's kind of what I've been doing.
It's what sometimes when you talk to younger people, this is what they like. If somebody coming up has only ever had things go well going their way in certain endeavors, and they haven't been chin checked, haven't been punched in the face yet, like you had said, like chin checked or however you want to put it, they don't necessarily know. You know, they don't necessarily know. And but it will happen. Life will chin check you. 100. Nobody escapes.
No one's immune to that.
Nope. Nobody's immune to that, my friend. Just haven't lived long enough yet if it hasn't happened yet, is what you tell everybody. In sports, life, business, love, whatever it is, you can get chin checked. It comes, right? So it's all part of it. In terms of the team aspect of it, what have you done to have you like, are there new people in the picture you're training with now, or have you decided you're going to start traveling one day a week, or what was the difference there for like the vibe difference for you?
Yeah, as of lately, really it's been the sessions that have been going better. There's a little bit more consistency with a few folks that I know. For a while it was kind of on and off, but they're kind of coming around again. And then I also, some weekends will travel and see some folks that I know pretty well, pretty intimately, and we'll train together. Just like this past weekend, I just got back a few hours ago. I was in North Carolina, and training with one of my friends from high school who still lives and trains and competes, and then with another friend as well. And it was us three. It was that one room, like in that video, that rack, the plates, and it was just us, and we just kind of off to the races. And those days where you go in there, and even if it's a week one or a lighter day, the energy in there is just it's undeniable. And whatever weight you're supposed to do, you do it, but you crush it. And it was good. That's kind of what's been kind of going on lately. But a lot of it is also definitely been internal lately too. I just really want to, I mean, for lack of better words, I want to destroy everybody and everything this year. And that's just kind of how I feel. And I really genuinely feel that way. So it just makes all of it that much more exciting. I truly do revel in the feeling. I really do.
It's so we could touch up on that in the 110s because it's like such a hot division. But real quick, I just also want to add in, it is something special that with everything we said about the team aspect, one more caveat to it is not just what it does for you, but it gives you a respect for, like I was talking about Calf, who's training for the Canadian Nationals. He's got a battle too, but I could tell, and it's special. It hits you when someone's got a tough day. You don't have a big day coming up and you could do it from home or whatever the shit. You show up, they got like that SPD session, like, holy fuck, this is a grinder. You walk through the room, they're already like 90 minutes deep. Maybe they're starting to lose wind and they see you come through the doors, the look on their face when they're like, my man showed up. And all of a sudden, and you feel like, did I just empower? I put some wind underneath my man's wings, and all of a sudden, and you come in with that new energy, and you're like, let's go, champ. Let's do this. Where we at? Just getting ready for my top singles. Well, let's go then. And all of a sudden, they're like, and you feel like yes, you can impact other people's days. You can impact someone else's day. You could turn around their whole evening by just showing up. Show up. Just show up for them. Just be there. You don't have to. I don't got a big day. Fucking go. Go in, and that person will be like, "Fuck, all right, let's do this." That means something, and it feels good does. On your end,
And I've done that so many times. I mean, there are people, and they'll allude to it like, "Oh yeah, this is like my last week of my training cycle or my block or whatever. It's gonna be a heavy one." I'm like, "All right, what time do you want to be there?"
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it means something, man.
Yeah, it does. It does.
When you do that for other people, they're gonna do that for you.
Yeah.
But yeah. So let's talk about the 110s. The 110s is hot as hell. I mean, it's one of the hottest divisions in powerlifting for sure. I mean, going into 2022, Bobb was at 912 and a half. So he was pretty far back. Keenan, nobody even heard of Keenan. I mean, Keenan hadn't competed in like ever. Keenan's like, nobody, if anyone said they saw me coming, you would have to have the last name Lee. And he's like, even then, I don't think my friends and family knew what I was capable of doing, right? Like, so you were in the hottest division right now. Is the competition having heated up like it did? This is one of the major factors because you had thrown it out there, and we're like, I don't like seeing my name. It looks wrong having someone else wear that crown.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, that's part of it, man. Like that has really sort of reinvigorated my efforts lately and has just bolstered my effort. I mean, seeing other people come in that you just like, hey, if you show up and pardon my French, if you show up and you fuck up, like they're gonna win. It completely changes the dynamic of the competition.
Yeah.
And it really changes every aspect of your training. It changes how you mentally approach each session. It changes how you it's just altered the energy that I have going into each session. I mean, I am training right now. I feel a lot like my older self. I'm a different Ashton training right now than I was just 2 months ago. A whole completely different person. And it's really a lot of it you could lend to like this direct competition that's going on.
And you could compartmentalize because I know you and Bobb are friendly, and you obviously have the same coach. but you can compartmentalize in your mind's eye, make, look at me. I like you, you like me, that's all good. But
Absolutely.
I got to crush you out there. This is business. This is you fired me up. I gotta take what you got. You want to take what I got. It is what it is.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, Bob and Keenan, I actually got to hang out with him a lot when I was in Korea. I love the guy, Same with Bob. Bob has a heart of gold. They're both good men. And I would call both of them friends, but at the same point in time, we're also competitors, and all three of us want the same thing, and only one of us can get it. So it's got to be me. That's what I appreciate.
That's right. I got to eat and I'm hungry. I wanted to ask you about before I go to, hold on one sec. Let me get my chronological in terms of 2022, because I was going to ask you about the competitions. I might as well go in order of these. Sec here. I pulled this up. Yoink. So obviously Virginia Pro, Arnold Classic, you did 9:15. So it was the Meganats that came first in June with a 9:25. So what happened at Meganats? Yeah. Obviously the total dropped 30 kilos, not the best. You got the W for your weight class, but not what you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, that I have to take accountability for that. That was my fault. I went to Vegas. I was weighing like 230 when I got there. And after a week of shenanigans, weighed in at like 222 or 223.
Oh my gosh, you lost weight?
Yeah.
What was the shenanigans? Usually you gain weight when you do shenanigans.
Yeah. I was doing so much. And because I've never been to Vegas. I've always wanted to go, never had the opportunity to go. And the thing that I really hated about this meet was they wanted us to lift on a Sunday. And I hate lifting on Sunday. I want to lift Friday or Saturday, especially Saturday, because that's when I usually train. I'm much more comfortable lifting Saturday, preferably in the morning or the afternoon, right? I don't like lifting at night. I don't like lifting Sunday. And I was lifting Sunday night at Nationals in Vegas. So do I just show up, not enjoy Vegas, not have any fun, and then compete Sunday night and then leave like the next day? Or do I have fun? Do I Vegas with my friends? And then do I, compete? And honestly, it had been a really difficult year. And even the latter half of 2022 was also very difficult. There were a lot of things going on again outside of powerlifting that really sort of just tested my mental, my spirit, my professionalism that I had to sort of endure. So I'm like, well, you know what? I think it'll be healthiest for me to have a good time here in Vegas with my friends, because this could be a once in a lifetime thing, opportunity. So I did that. I took a calculated risk, and I happened to be correct, but when I actually competed, of course, that very much affected, obviously, like how I performed. So that was definitely, I would take accountability for that. That was 100% in my control and in my doing, my fault. Otherwise, I could have potentially totaled a lot higher.
The videos and clips I've seen in terms of what like the parties going on in Vegas at the time, like it looked like the wildest. Like everybody was like, on the Russell Orhe account, my dude, it looked like a freaking, like he was shooting a music video. Like it was like champagne bottles and like hot women around the poolside. Is like, what is going on right now? Like I can see where if you're there, it'd be like every night somebody's like a weight class is done competing and they want to party and celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's
every single day. And I joined them.
Really?
yes, every night. Like the whole week straight. But I do take accountability for that performance. That was 100% on me. But I don't have any regrets, honestly. That was a great week. I had a great time. The friends that I had, strengthened our bonds. I mean, it was an amazing week. And like you
still won.
Still walked away with the win, despite having like a very, very bad meet. But well, I mean, not even bad attempt wise. Like I think I went like 7 for 8 or something like that.
Yeah, it looks like you only missed your second squat.
Yeah. So I went 7 for 8 or something like that, or 8 for 9. I can't remember, but
you were like Mike Tyson in his prime. when he was like partying, showing up, not really super trained. He'd be like, "Looking, man, I'm partying. I'm young. I'm in my prime. Let me do this."
Yeah, because normally before meets, I'm pretty tame. Like I'll have maybe like 2 to 4 beers, which for me is like nothing. But if I like do that for a whole week, obviously it's gonna affect your
It'll
performance.
catch up.
Yeah,
It'll
for
catch
sure.
up. So then after that though, when South Korea happened, how did that end up occurring anyways? Like who reached out to you? Who invited you out? Were you paid for and all of that? I'm very interested.
Yeah. So long story short, um, you know, USAPL, they stood up an affiliate in South Korea. I saw a post about it, and I was like, man, I saw that they were advertising a meet, and it was like right in August, and I commented on it, I'm like, man, this looks awesome. I'd really love to go back to Korea to compete. And then the owner of Train True messaged him. No, he replies to it. He was like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm serious." So we start talking, and it all kind of becomes a thing. And they pay for the flight for me to get there, which is not cheap to fly to Korea
Cheap.
from the U.S. I hadn't been back to Korea since 2015, so it had been 7 years.
And what did you do there originally?
Yeah, so I was there as a teenager. Actually, my dad was enlisted in the army as well, so I lived in
Gotcha.
Korea for a little while. Then my best friend was there too, best friends to this day actually. And I'd go back every summer and live with him and his dad. So we just would have fun in Korea like you do in Vegas.
Right.
But yeah, no, I love Korea. Amazing country, amazing, really amazing community that they've started there. I was shocked that the live stream viewer, the fitness influencers. I mean, wow, it was kind of a big deal. Um, the video of us competing actually had like I think like between 1.5 to like 2 million views on it, like on
Yeah,
YouTube. I was like,
that's
that's kind of
insane.
crazy for a powerlifting meet, but the right people kind of got into it and saw it, and it got good publicity in Korea, and a lot of people saw it, and it was awesome. But I think it was really big, for like the Korean people too, just to see someone kind of like rise up like that, like a really big, sort of strong, masculine, Korean man, going toe to toe with like one of the best in the world. And it was a really, I think it was just really healthy for the sport, like in every way. But yeah, they paid for the hotel. I came over, and it was like a couple $100 for the hotel. And then the money that I won from the meet paid for the hotel and for the food, because the food was cheaper, and the US dollar to the Korean won conversion was actually better than even when I lived there 8 years ago. So the dollar went further there, and I basically went to Korea for a week for free. It was amazing.
Nice. So when you went over there, did you like have any kind of anticipation at all about Keenan? Like I remember when this happened, first off, the rest of the powerlifting world was like, like Conor McGregor, who the fuck is that guy? Like, how did that happen? It was like, now when you look back, like at the time it was like, holy shit, this guy came out of nowhere. Random Korean dude is or whatever the quote was, and that became his Instagram handle.
Random
uh
Korean. Yeah, I knew
yeah,
that was going to happen too.
it was hilarious, but Keenan was on the podcast last, and he's like, I was a random Korean dude. He goes, I literally was. He said on the podcast, he's like, nobody see me coming. If they said they saw me coming, they're lying. Like, he's like, I literally was a random off the street who just like essentially in the powerlifting community, anyways, I was a random who stepped forward. And now when you look back, because Keenan now is ranked number one in the 110s in terms of totals for the year.
Yes.
That win at the time was just a win over a quote unquote random Korean dude. That win now is aged so well. When you look back, you wouldn't know the significance of going head to head with Keenan Lee. That's one of the biggest wins you can have. Like that was was a head to head matchup that you pulled out a win.
That
At the
was
time, it's different now.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite head-to-head matches I've ever done. Um, my favorite meets that I've done that I've won on body weight. So that was in 2014 when I went to Worlds, and I won equipped Worlds by body weight. I won 2017 Nationals against LS by body weight, and then I beat Keenan at this meet by body weight.
Yeah. It was
like
dramatic.
marginally too, like a very small margin.
Right. It was dramatic, man. It was like when it was unfolding, like did you have any inclination that holy shit, I'm in the middle of a battle? Or like when did you realize you were in the middle of a battle? Obviously, at some point during the day, you're like, okay, well, this guy is a freak and this is going to be crazy.
We were sitting right across from each other in the warm-up room. The racks that we were lifting on were facing each other.
Oh my God.
So as soon as we got into that warm-up room, it was game on. Like everything that he said about, oh, I think I just qualified for nationals or whatever, all that shit went out the window. We were sitting across from each other. We both knew what time it was. Like nothing had to be said. We're like, it's time to go.
You just recognize another alpha male. You're like, hang on a second. I'm about to be tested by the, you know what I mean? Like you're like, there are two alpha males eyeing each other. So you kind of got the vibe, this guy's special.
Immediately. As soon as we met. Yeah. As soon as we like just we're training and we start warming up and we're seeing our warm-ups and everything immediately. And in my head, the whole time I'm like watching everything, just calculating. It was game on from the moment. As soon as we walked into that warm-up room, it was game on.
Yeah, thank God you did knew I got a battle right off the bat. Because if you got shocked and thought at all, like I'm gonna, big travel, I should be okay, no big names here, I'll just do lower level RPE stuff. If you didn't turn that around quick enough, it would have been too late. Like it was, thank God you recognize, oh shit. Okay. Did you, who was there handling with you? Did someone come with you or who was there?
Yeah, actually, there was a couple of folks. One is he's actually an Army officer stationed in Korea right now. The other was in the Korean military. They had sort of wanted to meet me. They were like, "Hey, do you have anyone handling you?" I'm like, "No, I just tend to do it myelf." They're like, "Let us handle you." They drive
oh my God,
a few hours from a southern part of South Korea called Daegu. They drove up, and they were like just the coolest guys you could meet. And we kind of did our thing the whole day, and it was awesome. So they were very, very helpful. And that last deadlift, in case we had to change attempts or do whatever, I told them exactly the plan and how we'll do it and like what numbers we'll use. And it was perfect. And then after I passed out on that second deadlift, I think people thought I was done. And I was like, no, this shit's not over. Like, because I hit the second deadlift. I got it technically, successfully. But that was a 9-for-9 meet too, actually. But looking at that second deadlift, I was still technically not in the lead in the first place. And I usually take really big jumps on like my squat, my deadlift. That's kind of like, so people, they see my openers like, oh, well, you're like third or fourth in your openers. I'm like, yeah, just wait till the second attempt. It's gonna look a lot different. I take bigger jumps, conservative.
Right.
So took that big jump to second, nailed the second, passed out. I just didn't properly get enough air or whatever. I don't know. Maybe the moment got to me.
And they're like singing the South Korean national anthem already. They're already celebrating. They're like, okay, we won.
Yeah. I think Keenan told me, he was like, honestly, he was like, after you passed out, I didn't even think you were going to like do a third deadlift or get your third deadlift. And, the first thing I did when I got up from when I passed out, it was very brief. I got up and I looked over at the lights and I saw there were 3 white lights. So I walked over to the center, like, do you want to sit down or do you want water? I said, no, I'm good for one more. And then I put in the weight and then I just kind of went and sat down, hit the third one. And I convincingly too, it was actually I was actually kind of surprised at how well it moved. It was 843 pounds. Moved really, really well. It was a small conventional meet PR, definitely more in the tank, but yeah, it was one of those days that, like, everything just kind of aligned with 9-for-9, had the right atmosphere, and it's great.
In terms of like a surprise battle, literally, from passing out on the second to being like chin checked right there in the competition and having to pull yourself together for a 9-for-9, winning on body weight against the guy who we now know is a phenomenal lifter in Keenan Lee. It is, now that you look back, like here's what my first reaction after it all happened. I was like, hey, did they know that they were bringing you over from across the world? He's in his home country. You're flying, could not be further. all the way over there. Do not see him coming. Obviously, they all know who you are. I was like, was this a setup? Did they, who knew? What was after it was all said and done, did you look around and be like, you guys are real quick
Yeah.
to
A
respond
part
to
of me
that
was
comment?
like, you guys like trying to sneak me with this like
Yeah,
Korean metahuman? Like what
Yeah.
happened here?
right. It was like, I was like, and Keenan's like, he's like, honestly, I don't even think people around me knew I would do quite as good as I did. He's like, people probably thought I'd do okay, like over 900 and do pretty good. But he's like, I honestly don't even think they for sure was good. You guys are in the same weight class and they thought it'd be reasonably close, but they had no idea it'd be quite that. But yeah, I remember
The
when
battle
it first,
that it turned into. Yeah.
man, it was one of the best battles. And it turns out like it was like a huge performance by a guy who it wasn't a flash in the pan. Like he's here. Looking at that, where would you rank that amongst, like, obviously you've got, national titles, you've been to worlds, whatever. Where would you rank that amongst your battles and performances? Even though it wasn't a PR, but it was on the other side of the world
Yeah.
and
That
9
was
for 9.
definitely and it's so funny because it's not even like I like you said, like a national level meet where there's like a ton of depth in the weight class. It was us two just going at it. But that was probably definitely my top like 2 or 3 favorite meets I've ever done
Well,
as a competitor.
when people say like, have you ever been in a battle though and won when you needed to like that? You can point to this now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been battled. I'm battle tested. Some people
Yeah.
are, so that's big to like,
You
get
fly
off the
across the
canvas.
world, you get snuck into competition on the day, you kind of
Yeah.
figure out this dude means business, and you're like, you're in it.
And across the world too. When people say like, have you ever traveled and done that and whatever, you've checked a couple boxes there. And that's big for any athlete to be like, look, man, I've been in battles. Do you think it was easier not seeing him coming? Or because then it's just whatever. By the time you realize you're already there, too late now to overthink anything. It's already go time. So you just go. Or do you think, when it's like weeks on end
I
coming
think
up? Oh, I think he
I
froze.
think in this unique circumstance, it was better because my training by this point had already been kind of suffering. Anyway, things just weren't going my way. I was just really, really busy and stressed, just normal life stuff. I guess not normal, but like for me, normal life stuff. But yeah, I mean, kind of not knowing, not having that kind of just stressor looming over you the entire time was definitely different, especially with everything that was going on. And showing up and then just that kind of happening was actually ideal. I think that actually gave me a little bit more momentum than I otherwise would have had training for the Virginia Pro, just because it got me excited again. Like the day itself, it was very fleeting, but it got me really, really excited to like actually be competing again like that. Not with someone for dots, but in the weight class directly with someone, literally the better man, like is gonna win. It was just, yeah, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. And I'm glad that I kind of got blindsided, but I'm also glad that that happened because it kind of woke something up in me. If anything, very briefly, that I felt like had been sleeping for a little while.
I mean, if you because if you're traveling the whole other side of the world and it's coming, there's nothing but anticipation waiting for it to come type deal. Whereas when you just show up, and it's a way better story too. Look at the story of you walking in, like not knowing, going to the other side, and them inviting you from a Instagram comment, and you just being in that warm-up room, looking across and be like, oh, that's an alpha. I see it in his eyes. I know and then your handlers will be like, what do you mean? You'll be like, listen, I know a fucking lion when I look into its mouth. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a lion. I know lions. I know. Yeah. I'm a fucking lion. I recognize another lion. We're going here.
Yeah.
But so moving into Virginia, like at the Virginia Pro, obviously. So what was it like? Was the training not the greatest? Was it like, did it kind of revert back a little bit? Because we're talking about momentum. You didn't really have the partners you wanted. Oh, that's right. You were tinkering with new items in terms of your training. And it was
just a perfect storm.
Right.
Honestly, everything that could have went wrong, went wrong. Yeah, so of course there were all these sort of life variables and circumstances outside of the gym that really couldn't be controlled and just couldn't be helped. It was what it was. That had a very, very big effect. But yeah, the training crew was definitely part of it. There was no sort of consistency. There weren't really people to, help, to kind of, like we talked about earlier, with the momentum and accountability and everything. That just wasn't there. And I really missed that. Training for the VA Pro almost felt like a chore rather than it did, you know, um, because I love training, I love lifting, and I've loved it for years, and I love doing it even when I'm alone. But that meet just felt so different because everything was just so intense at the time. It just felt like a chore, just going and training, and the excitement was just sort of sucked out of it. And then yes, we did tinker with some things in training, and definitely did not help. Was not fruitful, and it was a lesson learned, and I'm glad that we did it because we got valuable data out of it, and that thing independently obviously didn't cost me the VA Pro. I like to think I have more control over whether I win or lose than that. So I certainly do, but it definitely was a factor for sure. And I think I would have shown up better. Had we not taken that training approach, but at the same point in time, we didn't really know and we needed to know. So I think
Yeah.
it's good that we did what we did and we tried it, and it didn't work. And we kind of went back to something that's kind of tried and true. And all of a sudden, training goes great again. And it's like, oh, well,
It is
that's
what it is. We're back.
yeah.
How much different is it to be battling when it's not dots and it's straight to head kilos? Like in terms of your intensity, in terms of your what it feels like game day leading up to, is it that much more impactful?
Yeah, I like that so much more. And even with the Arnold obviously my intention is to win and to be whoever shows up to that meet in Columbus at that convention center on dots. Like my goal is to absolutely win. At the same point in time, though, one of my bigger goals, honestly, past the money, past everything, and it kind of sounds crazy. It's going to sound crazy to everybody, but my biggest goal really is to take back my record and to just put up a total that just no one's ever done, like in that weight class. And that's really, really what I want. So like that direct sort of competition for Bob will be helpful. Keenan's going to compete that weekend as well, I think in the morning before I do. And obviously, there's like a lot of money on the line, and I definitely want to win. But all it's gonna be an opportunity for all three of us to just sort of be there and try to push each other, not train, but to compete so badly out of us three. For some reason, right now, in this moment, that matters to me more than actually winning, like on dots, is actually just being there with both of them, competing with them, and beating them. That's what I care about right now.
And when you talk about what you want to hit, something special, is it a number in mind? Is it the 1,000 kilo total? Or is that too much? Is it your first step to the 1,000 kilo total? 1,000 kilo total might be mega nats, or what do you foresee in terms of that? Or is it not necessarily a number driven like that?
Yeah. It's definitely it is number driven, of course. It it's not likely it would be 1,000, but definitely approaching that territory, if that makes sense. Getting a lot closer than 955, that's for damn sure. That's really what I would like to do. And then like Mega Nats hitting 1,000 plus is kind of like the way I'm looking at it. But I mean, we don't really know, right? We'll kind of see what happens, but anything could happen. But I really feel good about this one. I haven't felt this good about one in a long time. I feel good about this one. So we'll see.
That's exciting. When you listen, Ashton, when you're saying I feel good about this one, anyone listening is like, oh, damn. This is, because Bob has got tons of momentum. You've got tons of momentum, and you're going to be clashing both at the same time. I think, well, Keenan is going to be going first, right? Arian, if I'm not mistaken, Keenan goes first. So you'll already know what he's hit. Yep. In terms of and he's actually battling for a pro card with Rondell. So he has two moving pieces going on where he's got so it's he's got some he's got to keep one eye on Rondell in out total, by dots to get his, because that's how it works, right? You need the dots for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So technically for Keenan, He has to go. He has to just do. He has to be very strategic, right? To get the pro card, just because he'll be competing with Ronell. So I'm not sure how that will influence his total on the day, but I mean, we'll see how that works. But yeah, that is definitely a factor to be cognizant of when comparing his performance to Bob and I's later in the evening.
Right. And at the very least, though, you'll know what he puts up. So
Yep.
you'll know if your goal. So here's a question for you. If he puts up something monstrous, but within
I
reason.
expect him to.
Right. Actually, fair enough. Fair enough. But you want to beat Bob head to head. Are you doing your attempt selection based off of you're competing against both of them? So you're trying to stay ahead of Keenan as well? Or are you like, look, I'm head to head on Bob on the same platform. I need to defeat Bob straight up and not too much worry about Keenan? Or are you like, because there can be a point where your last deadlift, it might come down to this. It might literally come down to, listen, my friend, you can pull a weight and beat Bob head to head. And there's, Bob took Virginia, you take it back. That's your head to head. You beat Bob, or you load more to also beat Keenan. But if you miss, you won't beat Bob and you won't beat Keenan, and you're risking beating Bob because you could pull less to beat Bob. If that kind of thing happens, which might, what do you do?
Yep. Well, I mean, don't think if I could secure, whatever the prize, I think it's like 15 grand or whatever. Like if I can secure that.
Oh, that's true too. The money. Yeah. Fair enough. You know what? I was just thinking pride there, but yeah.
I will. I mean, yeah, I'm, don't get me wrong. Like, I've a lot of pride with humility, but I am prideful nonetheless. So, but at the same point in time, am I going to just kind of let that money walk away? If I know it's within my grasp, I wouldn't, but I wouldn't be, but if I hit that, hypothetically, and I won, but it didn't beat Keenan's performance, I wouldn't be satisfied with it though. And I know that. I'd feel a lot better because I'd won the money, but because if I lost the money and wasn't satisfied, then that would suck worse, is kind of the way I see it. But at that point, then it would just be, at Nats, it's game on and beat both of them. But I fully intend to beat both of them this time, so we'll see.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like, it's not worth 15K. You know what I mean? Like, you take that money and be like, I'll see you at Nats, young man. I'll see you at Nats, Keenan. I did what I had to do. The 15K is what it is, but there will be all three of you at once, which is just absolutely bonkers to see you guys, all three of you on the same platform. It's going to be insane. Where is Mega Nats this year?
It's going to be in Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis. Okay. And how's the party scene there?
Not Vegas, that's for sure.
Well, that's true too. It can only be better than Vegas. That's right.
Yeah, no, it's not too terrible. But honestly, I'm not going to really be too tempted by that, just because the competition is different this time,
right?
And there's just more on the line. There's more at stake. There's better people coming up out of the woodworks, and I mean, the next year or two, we might not be the only three sort of contenders in that 950 plus kilo range. We might have another one or two guys come up there. There's already a few guys that look like they're floating up to around 2,000. Hell, back at the VA Pro, I think in 21, Jake Amendola, for example, he hit 2K. Right. So it's just there's going to be guys, and that's why I really like this weight class, because it's so competitive. It's dudes that are putting up monstrous numbers, monstrous totals, and you're big, you're jacked and muscular and stuff, but it's not like the super heavies either, Right. And I kind of really like that middle ground with the 100, the 110, mainly like kilo weight classes, or 105 in the IPF. I really like watching the 105s. But yeah, it's just special.
I was going to ask you, because it is it's interesting. You guys, you three are obviously the three big ones, the three giants and the 110, but all you guys are real close to 100 kilos. All you guys could easily cut to 100 kilos and always are underneath 105. So to the point of, you could have another lifter show up who's actually 113 kilos. He cuts to 110. 3 kilos is nothing. Jessica Bittner is half your guy's size and she cuts way more kilos. Like you could have a guy who's like 115 kilos who cuts to 110 kilos.
Yeah. We
And
could all
he
compete
would,
105 theoretically.
and he would be, yeah, exactly. And that individual, while pound for pound might not be as good as all three of you, he would be 10 kilos bigger, 22 pounds of body weight bigger human.
That's a
That's
lot.
where, when we talk about like to your point of someone could show up, someone could easily show up in that particular weight class only because he doesn't even have to be pound for pound as special, so to speak. He just will be way bigger. He will look like a bigger weight class, a weight class up, because he will be. You know, that's why it's very tumultuous. This is almost a special time as well. Do you think about that? And in thinking about that, have you thought about maybe I go to 100 at some point? Bulking is even like you'll probably never fill out to 113, what like that big, right? Is that way too big of an ask? Because you're already pretty big, dude, right? Like in terms of your frame.
I could probably hit that weight.
Holy smokes, Ashton!
I'm just like a monster, but I could do it. Yeah. I don't plan to get to 113 though. My plan, I mean, that would be the cap for me though, because I kind of made an agreement with myself, like a lifetime cap body weight would be around like 250. I don't think I'd ever want to go above that. You know, I'm not above 6 feet, and I don't think it's necessarily great for health, whether you're muscular or whatever. 250 plus, like on your heart.
Yeah.
Naturally, or on drugs for that matter, it's not really great. So, yeah, I mean, right now I'm like kind of slowly gaining. I'm getting back up to like that 230 range, but and I'm really comfortable at this weight, and I think I look really good too. But I think I'll probably try to make a run up to like around 240, maybe 245, like in that range, because I know for a fact I can do it. But if I do go up to that weight range, I'm only going to stay there for a year or two, and then I'm going to go back down. Like, cause I don't want to stay in that weight class, weight range for too long.
If this thing progresses to a bunch of guys, your level of talent, but they are 110. So we're looking at totals that are probably monstrous. Picture yourself, but naturally a lot bigger human, just as talented.
Kilos, yeah.
What's that? Sorry?
But like weighing 110 kilos, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, in that, if that ends up happening, which eventually you got to think it will, like in every single weight class, eventually the natural 75s, the natural 82 and a halves show up. Like it'd be really bizarre in the 82 and a half, 83 kilo classes for all top three guys are like actually 77 kilos. That I can't even picture it. You know what I mean? Like this is right. So this is a very unique, this is unique in almost guaranteed to be temporary. It's only a matter of time. Some freak is going to come out of football or whatever and show up and he's like, hey, I'm actually way bigger than everyone else here. Let's see what happens. When that comes, would you move down to 100 kilos? Would you be like, hey, maybe take a swing at 105 IPF route? What would be your plans there if some natural 110s come?
If that guy came in and he beat us, then I'm like, no, I'm going to go up in weight and beat him.
Oh, that's true too.
So that's what I would do. I would just go up. I mean, I'm planning to go up anyway to that weight range to really try to fill out the potential of this weight class in the next like year or two. Probably taking about that long. But if I can fill out the potential in this weight class, you know, because like you said, at nationals, you know, dots or whatever, formula, whatever, you know, stupid bullshit. Like, but at the end of the day, you know, nationals, worlds, whatever, hey man, like it doesn't really matter what you weigh if you're in the weight class.
Right.
Which man has the biggest total? So you know, I weighed in at 228 and I lost by 5 kilos, but I won best lifter because of dots. Like I wouldn't care that I won best lifter. It wouldn't matter to me. It'd be irrelevant because I lost what mattered. So yeah, to your point, I do intend to fill out the weight class or to at least get very close to filling it out. And just like winning and just stomping whoever shows up at nationals.
That's what the conversation was too. Like it's very awkward because all you guys are so close in terms of like body weight, as because all you guys are like small 110s. And also in terms of loss, obviously total. So it would be kind of awkward where somebody could conceivably come in third, take a bronze, but be best lifter. The best lifter but be crowned the best lifter of the tournament. Whereas like historically speaking, like when like Taylor Atwood would win his weight class and wins best lifter, it's not a tough one to explain. But it's tough to think, yeah, this guy is third in his weight class, but the best lifter of the entire tournament. Doesn't make sense. It actually doesn't. That sentence doesn't make sense. So
it sounds terrible.
Yeah, it'd be like, come again. Wait. Sorry. He's the best lifter of the entire tournament. Yes. But he's third in his weight class. Also true. That's like an oxymoron. It's like, I don't wrap my head around that. So hopefully it doesn't come down to that. And I don't think I don't think anybody guns. That's when it really gets put into perspective what formulas are and what titles are, to that, argument that's kind of been kicked around, but it's true. Titles, Russ said that, but this is where I think if you ask anybody, they'll be like, nah, give me that title. Straight.
The title matters, man. It's the title. It's the title every time.
Yeah.
It's just so much more sentimental, has so much more meaning. You really feel like you're actually in a battle. It's so much different. I mean, I don't like competing with guys that are 80 pounds lighter than me, like for formula, because they're lifting less weights on me than everything. And I'm like, okay,
I mean, exactly. You could, I mean, I get it, where you could respect, look, you've done great. You're doing amazing. But at the same time, you're like, I don't know, man, we're not really competing against each other, with all due respect. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm 60 pounds bigger and lifting 150 kilos more. We're just not in the same lane. Like I know you mean, where it's like, yeah, right. Yeah. I know what you mean. It gets awkward. It's almost an awkward conversation.
It's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah, for sure. But when you were toe to toe with another man that literally is around your size, just as big and bad and strong as you are, and you're duking it out with him, it's a completely different. It's almost like it sounds so primitive when I describe it, but it's just so true. It's like that's what I prefer, that kind of competition over competing with someone who's a lot smaller than me, lifting a lot less weight than me. And it's not to take away from them, because they're still damn strong, still a beast, still, in the top, 99th percentile of humans for strength. But like, if I'm competing with them and they're not even like really sort of close to that level functionally, then how much do I really care aside from the money?
Yeah, right. Because again, all of that changes with history when you change the formula, and the formula seems to change fairly often. In 10 years,
2 years.
Yeah. You could change a formula in 3 years, go back and take the same tournament, same results, and like in terms of kilos lifted, and change who won, who came in second, who came in third with
the order. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's the same tournament. You just rewrite history with whatever formula you want to use. I know it's tough, man. I do get why they do it, because right now, talent pool wise and powerlifting,
not big enough yet.
Yeah. So you do what you got to do to make it competitive, to make the shows. I get it. 100%. I get it. But that's what makes it special, what's going on right now with all you guys. And it's kind of cool how all you guys could cut to 100. And it's like, all you guys have looked each other in the eye and be like, none of us are going to cut, right? Nope. None of us are going to cut, right? We're all agreeing we're going to be like 103. Like, you guys have all been just a few kilo over, and you're like, let's just let this happen.
Yeah, man. I mean, because if any of us did that, and again, both of those boys know that, I really like them, go out to bat for them, and everything. But if any of them cut down before nationals, just know that the bottom of my heart, I do love you guys, but like, in my eyes, you would be a coward for running. Running from the competition, you'd be a coward, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's blinking at this point. Nobody can.
Yeah. And they're not cowards, so they're not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So
I'm like, how disheartening would it be if like one of the three is like, I'd like to announce I'm cutting to 100 kilo. It's like, God, no.
And then you drop the episode.
and they're like, and if it beat you on dots, I consider that a win. And you'd be like, oh, this is entirely not what we wanted.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, no, it could never happen. I mean, with Keenan, and I know Keenan pretty personally, as he said, now. And I would say personality wise, we're actually very, very similar, which was kind of eerie when we like met each other and competed. We were very much alike, which was funny. Just from different sides of the world. That's really the big difference. But just the way that we view and approach like competition and competing and wanting to be the best, like we were very similar in that way. So I definitely don't see him doing that. And with Bobb, Bobb has a fire within him, and he has something to show and to prove to the world and to himself. And him dropping a weight class for the sake of a title in a lesser weight class against guys that are going to be lifting lesser weight, I just don't see him doing that either. And in my case, I'm notorious for going up weight classes that I shouldn't be in to have different competition. So I'm not going anywhere either.
And here's the thing, Bobb has already won the 100 kilo and won best lifter. Like, you've done that. If you want to check that box, it's easier to move up when you've already done it, as opposed to repeating that whole thing. And this narrative has already been pushed. The hype's already been made. The ink has already been set. Too late now. Yeah. If this is not the time to get scared, this is not the time for scared men.
Yeah, no, this is not a time for fear or retreat. No, we've all signed the dotted line. Like
that's right. That's right. There can only be one. On that day, because you and Bobb are on the same team, who's going to handle who? Is that even being discussed yet? You're pretty far. Well, you're not that far from the Arnold, actually. I was thinking about Nats, but who handles who in these scenarios?
So usually that's kind of how it worked at the VA Pro. So Marcellus does work with both of us on the day, but usually I was telling you guys earlier about my friend Christian. He usually comes as well, and he specifically works with. He helps me out a lot more usually, and will help Marcellus out with both of us too. But it'll more so be kind of like Christian and I a lot, and definitely like Marcellus too. After each attempt, he'll kind of be there for both of us, and he'll kind of take our feedback, incorporate that, and then as we're going through the meet, kind of calculating the number crunching attempts and stuff like that. So I would say Marcellus, just to kind of like to that note, I would say he's been very good with handling a lot of his lifters at high level competitions, and not only being competent in handling them, but being competent in ensuring that no one person is really getting special treatment. You know what I mean? Because let's face it, it's a concern when you've got guys literally in the same weight class going directly against each other.
There's also there's also like a game to be played though in powerlifting where you like change openers or like try to get behind them on the second attempt. So you load up like you could try to get the lead on, or like placeholder. You could change your last deadlift twice over. There is gamesmanship. Like, Matt Gary will do that. And
exactly.
And so that's where I think you were stronger than Bryce Lewis, with all due respect. But Matt Gary was able to like maneuver for a win purely based off of gamesmanship, not because Bryce was a stronger lifter. So that's where, like, if you have one guy doing both guys, it'll be an awkward conversation. Like
it is tricky.
Unless it comes down to, we're just going to RP 10 it for the first couple like events. But then that's when Christian does like that's where maybe if you're going to do it that way, Christian does that, right? Like, okay, if it comes down to gamesmanship or whatever, I don't know. I'm not sure how you guys will mark it, but
yeah. But I mean, it worked out really well at the VA Pro. It worked out well at the VA Pro the year before as well, when Petrie was also in the mix for that meet, because he's going to be at the finale too. And Petrie is one of those guys that you're not going to want to underestimate for the finale either, because he's lifting in the 90 weight class, I think, and he's been doing some pretty monstrous things lately. So, he could win it too. It's like,
yeah, it's true. It's going to be dicey, man. I can't wait to watch the Arnold. It's going to be freaking fireworks and everybody's all fired up for it. And obviously,
I think it's going to be a great meet. I'm really excited for the Arnold. I'm really excited for Sheffield too. I'm excited to see how both of those turn out.
Yeah, dude, we're spoiled, aren't we?
Yeah, this is a good time. We have some heavy hitters emerging, man. This is a special time.
Arian, do you got any questions there? I've covered quite a bit. I know we were talking early in the chats, and I kind of strung along and took all the talking points, but
I mean, you kind of went through the whole timeline, so we're good.
That's exactly it. I told you the timeline we're going to go through, and I stuck to it. Listen, Ashton, I appreciate you coming on here, my friend, and getting your feedback. And I know, like everybody else, there's a momentum going on, and it's kicking in just at the right time. So let's just ride this wave of momentum right into the Arnold, and hopefully all three you guys in the 110s and then Petrie in the 90 all have the same. And I mean, we're going to have some spectacular as well as Rondell. I mean, Rondell's got like
Rondell
holy
Hunt, he's looking good. He's dangerous. Yeah.
It's gonna be a hell of a competition at the Arnold Classic. I appreciate you, man. Is there anybody that you want to give any shout outs, sponsors, or anything like that before we let you go, sir?
No, I mean, the main one was, Christian Chestnificent on Instagram. And then, of course, my coach, Marcellus Williams. His Instagram is at the Swolefessor. Both great men, both doing great things, I think, for a lot of powerlifters in the community, for the community as a whole. And we're just excited for March, man. And yeah, I'm going to ride this wave.
Listen, man, I'm going to be reaching out after March, though. We got to
Yeah.
talk after these battles have taken place, man, for sure. But yeah, man, we'll keep in contact. Good luck with training, my friend. And we'll talk in the DMs.
Alrighty. Good to see
See
you,
you, buddy. Have a good one.